Ms. Kanbuja, I've been working with Esri, or sorry, working with NOAA for about 25 years now. I am the chief developer for NCOS's biogeography branch. NCOS is the National Centers for Coastal Ocean Science. And one of the big projects we do is doing benthic surveys and fish censuses in the Caribbean and the Pacific. So back in March, Esri approached us and wanted to show off some of their different new applications that they had, things like Survey 123, the Collector app, the Workforce app, and wanted to see how we could work with them to basically do a marine version of some of these applications. So we toyed around with several different ideas, including using our social scientists to use the Survey 123, but we settled on using the Collector app and the Dashboard app to help modernize the way we collect our benthic and fish census work. So this project is part of the National Coral Reef Monitoring Program, which started back in 2013. This is a project that we're working with the Coral Reef Conservation Program. And the goals of this are to collect geographically comprehensive status and trends data to improve the health and monitoring of the coral reefs of the United States. So we're looking at both in the Pacific, all the sites we have here in the Pacific, as well as the Caribbean. Now, the NCRAMP, as it's known as, has 4 different main goals, and we're really focusing on the first there, which is monitoring the status and trends of the coral reef ecosystems. So even though this project has been fairly recent, starting back in 2013, our work doing this type of work has gone back all the way to the year 2000, and the NCRAMP was really a way of basically standardizing all the different protocols and methodologies that were used to be collecting this information. So a little bit about NCOS's work in the Caribbean here. You can see this map showing all the different sites that we've been visiting over the past 16 years now. Now these are biennial fish and benthic surveys. So by fish surveys, a diver will go to a point, count the fish they see, or do a transect and count and record the fish they see. The benthic surveys will be, you go down and you basically put down a little quadrat, make basically analysis of all the different fish or coral species you'll see at that location. These are looking at the hard bottom habitats down to about 30 meters. We had been creating benthic maps of the coral reef areas in the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and the rest of the Pacific territories for these past 16 years. And initially, our work has been down to about 30 meters. That was basically the limit of aerial photography that we could use to make these maps. We've then since improved our methodology and are using more side-scan sonar, multi-beam sonar, to collect this information to create these maps. So the last point here is the fish and the coral independent surveys designs are developed independently of one another, but we will go out at the same time to collect the information. So I'm going to go talk about how we currently do this, to currently collect this information right now. We start out with the benthic habitat maps that we have created. You see an example right here of the Virgin Islands of St. Thomas and St. John. So we had created the benthic habitat maps showing the hard bottom areas, the aggregate reefs, the patch reef areas, and things like that. And in addition to that, we also have different what we call strata out there, which are the dark lines you can see on there, like here. So we've got the mid-shelf area, we've got the protected areas of the national parks there, we've got basically the areas around St. Thomas and St. John. So we want to make sure we get many points within not only each type of benthic type, but each of the strata also. So we use a tool that I had built called the sampling design tool to create to basically select randomly stratified sample sites. So here we have all the points that were used for this particular survey. We have primary sites those are the obviously the ones that we'll visit first, and if we have additional time, we'll visit secondary sites too. So we have a good sampling of all the different sites in our study area. The next thing we'll do is we'll actually determine what information is collected at that site. There could be 4 different types of surveys that are done. There could be a water collection done there. There could be a fish census, a benthic survey, and what's called an LPI, or a line point intersect, basically doing the transect. So not every point will have each of those 4 surveys. They usually always have the benthic and the LPI. Sometimes they have watering, sometimes they not. Sometimes they don't. We also want to collect or get information beforehand about the depth at each site, because as you go out every day, you have to visit the deep sites first and then work your way back to the shallow waters, because the divers will run out of dive time. So from that, we'll create a big wall chart, basically. This is something that the field coordinator will use to determine which sites need to be done a day, and basically marking off during the day which sites have been done. So this is a nice big wall chart, but it's a paper wall chart. It's kind of old way of doing this. The other thing we have to do is create what are called organizational charts, and these are basically lists of all the different points that they could possibly visit. And each of the boats, there could be 2, 3, 4 boats that will be used in a mission. We'll get one of these charts, so we have to laminate all these pages and hand these out to each of the boats. And what they will do during the day is then they will write on these laminated sheets what's been done, the sites that they visited, who dove at that site, any sort of notes that they have for that specific site itself. So during the day, the first thing has to happen is the field coordinator will have to determine which sites each boat will visit that day. They'll visit maybe 6 to 9 sites in a day. That's basically how much dive time that allows them to do. The coordinator will determine which sites to go to and hand each boat a slip of paper saying, these are the sites you have to go visit. During the day, the boats will go to each of those sites, record, again on these charts here, what they have done. They come back to the port at the end of the day, and the field coordinator then has to transcribe everything on the org chart back to a master spreadsheet. We have a master spreadsheet that's right now in Google Docs. That's our one sort of modernization that we've done, because sometimes we have one field coordinator, other times we may have 2 field coordinators, and we want to make sure that each field coordinator is taking their unique sites. We don't want to have 2 field coordinators going after the same site. So at the end of the day then, the coordinator has to then copy the data from the org chart to their spreadsheet, and then go back to that big wall chart and X off each sites that have been visited. So that's kind of a clunky way of doing it, and it's making the decisions on where to go the next day gets more difficult as the mission goes on, because you're losing your sites, and you have to determine, okay, we still have to go to these deep sites, we have to go to this strata, and it gets just more difficult, more time consuming as the time goes on, and that really bites into their bar time in the evening. So they really want to get a better, more improved way of doing this. So the new methodology we'd like to start using is using the collector app and the dashboard view that Esri has shown us. The collector is something that's either going to be a smartphone or iPad based. The dashboard is an app that's either a web app that's out of a browser, or a Windows app that you can download and run on your Windows machine. The next steps here, I'll actually do a demonstration. Initially, I was going to try and do a live demonstration, but I figured I don't want to test the technology too much. So I'll go through a bunch of screenshots of what the collector and the dashboard app would look like. If you'd actually like to see this more live, just come visit me afterwards, and I can fire up both things on my smartphone and on the computer itself. So the collector app is designed so that, well, each boat will have its own version of the collector. So we could have, in this example, we're going to have 4 boats. So boat 1 is given these points to do. Let me get the pointer here. And so it has points right here, here, and here that it has to go visit today. This is actually the Silver Spring campus. You can see this is the GPS signal from the phone itself. And then as you go to the point, you can click on the point and get more information about that. So you click on a point, you see all the attributes that it has, what strata it is, what type of bottom type it's supposed to be, how deep it is, latitude and longitude, things like that. It has some additional information on, okay, what are you supposed to do at this site? You've got to collect fish information here. You've got to collect the LPI. You've got to collect the demography, and then you've also got to collect a water sample. You've also got some information. You can type in any comments you see. Okay, we saw a really cool turtle here, or this area was not diveable because the conditions were bad, the visibility was bad. So those are all important things to learn about also. So by clicking this edit button here, the boat driver can then start collecting information that's what's being done at that site itself. So we've got for the collections, what's the status of that? Was it complete? Was it not complete? Was it terminated? And terminated again could mean we couldn't come here this time, or we couldn't dive this time because conditions were bad, so the visibility was bad. That could mean that, okay, we can go back again and look at this at a later time. It also might be terminated due to the fact that the point is in the wrong location. It's in seagrass, like a marshy area. It could be in the middle of a shipping channel. So I'll go back to that here. So we want to record why they can't visit that. So later on, when the field coordinator is looking at those notes, they can say, okay, let's go back and visit this again, or let's just take this off of our list. We can't visit this point, so it's not going to be used anymore. The next thing you can do is you want to say when it is. We have the choice of, if I go back here, actually you can't see that unfortunately, but you have the opportunity of just choosing the time right now, use the current date and time, or you can actually, if you're doing this at a later date, you can change the date, change the time, and put that in as the attributes. And finally, you want to record who's the diver at that point. This, and if you go back to the complete status, are basically run by domains in the geodatabase. So these are hard-coded selections. These are all the divers that would be associated with this mission. We initially thought about whether we could say, just give the divers for that boat, but then we found out that, well, the divers will be assigned to different boats on different days, so you can't just say, okay, boat 1 has these 4 divers all the time. So we wanted to then have the full range of all the divers that could be available on that mission itself. Again, since these are domain values, you can't type in individual incorrect entries. You just have the selections to go from. So I'll switch over to the dashboard view now, and this is what the field coordinator will be looking at as the day is going on. So here is the preliminary view of the information on the dashboard, and on this side are different widgets that can be added, can be configured to show many different types of information. This first panel is just showing a very simple information of how many have been completed, how many have been assigned, and how many have not been assigned yet. So assigned to boats would be how many of the sites are the boats going out to visit today, and these are how many sites we have left to do altogether. So you can click on a site, you can see its information. Again, we're looking at the same site again. So these are all the bits that they have to do. They have to collect the fish, they have to collect the LPI, they have to collect the demo, and they have to collect the water. As the boat is out there doing its work, they will then collect that information and then hit the save button on the collector app. And once that's done, that will actually then be reflected here. So now this site here, let me go back a little bit here. This is the point they have here, and once it's completed, it will then be updated on the collector. So, on the dashboard. So the field coordinator has a better idea of what's being done during the day. You have additional widgets over here, for example. again, if you want to see the live version, come see that, and we can see all the different widgets and how you can configure them to show basically a lot of different things on there. And finally, this has now gone up to 4 since that point was completed. So that gives the coordinator a good way of looking at it. And since this is a web-based application, it can give other people a good way of sort of looking over their shoulder and seeing what the progress is on that. So we could have people back in Silver Spring sort of monitoring that from afar and seeing how it's coming along. And it's good public relations of seeing, okay, what are we doing these days? So we have been doing this in phases. Phase 1 has been really focusing on the collector part of the application. We want to do see if there's some additional customizations we can do to it. We want to start looking at related tables. And related tables really comes into play if you have to go to a site more than once. If you go there once, you can do all the surveys at the same time. That's great. But if you have to go back there, you're not going to be quite at the same point again on a boat. No matter how good your GPS and diver is or driver is, you're going to be drifting around a little bit. So we wanted to record actually what point they were really at when they were taking that site. And that may not be important for maybe like 5 or 10 feet, but if you're getting 20, 30 feet, that's where you might encounter it's like an edge of a habitat type. So we're saying you're going down to a pavement, but actually it's 20 feet over is sand. So we want to record where you actually were versus where we think you were. And we also have to look at using disconnected networks. You're going farther offshore, you're going to lose the network signal, or in some of the really tight coves in like St. John, there's not going to be any cell phone signal. So once they go into an area, they can't update it until they come out and are able to sync up again. One of the nice things about Collector is that you don't need the live link all times. You can actually download the application to your phone. So it not only will download the points associated with that, it will also download the base map. So you have that as a background. You can determine how close in you want to see, how much, and it will tell you, how much space that's going to take in your phone. For the dashboard, we want to look at additional widgets. The dashboard currently has some issues with working and displaying displaying related tables. So that's something we'll have to work on also. And in talking with the collector and dashboard people here yesterday, they're saying that a new version of dashboard will be coming out soon, we hope. And it will, like as I said before, there's a Windows application version and a browser version, and they want to combine that into a single one, so we'll have the same framework. The Windows application version gives you the ability to configure each of these different widgets on the side, whereas the web browser version does not allow you to do that. The next thing we want to work on, the next phase of the project, will be working on how these points are being assigned. We're looking at using the web mapping application to do that, using basically the application that Esri has set up, making a simple version or simple way for the coordinator to select points, to select the assignments for those points, telling whether it needs to do LPI or water or benthic. In a very simple format. We were showing some preliminary views of that to our team, and they're really quite excited about the way they could filter out the different points of that. Okay, give me all the points that are greater than 20 feet deep, that have a pavement, that are in this specific strata, and it then will quickly show them which points they have to select from. So they were really quite happy to see that, and to see some more progress on that is something they're really looking forward to. Where you also might consider using Workforce for ArcGIS. We haven't really delved into that much yet, but wanted to see how well that integrates with the Collector app. The next steps then will be to test this. We want to do some local testing first. We can do some testing in like Silver Spring itself, so you could send some people out with their smartphones and collect the points and bring them back. And then start doing some field testing. We have there's a training session going on down in Miami in March that we'd like to start introducing this and getting the feedback from all the participants there on how they like this, seeing what types of improvements are needed on this. We want to make this pretty simple. We don't want to make this something that's too burdensome to use. And one thing you really have to be wary of is how easy is it going to be looking at a smartphone while on a moving boat. You start getting some motion sickness problems with that. So keeping this very simple is going to be quite important for us. So then in June is our next big field mission, and we hopefully will be able to deploy it out there and have our team use it there. So looking at this farther, we'd like to start also using some of the capabilities to start collecting more information. As you can see from this picture here, is when a diver goes down, they're actually writing things down on waterproof paper as they go down there, the fish they see, the corals they're counting, things like that. We want to see if that's possible to do on a waterproof iPad, waterproof tablet in the underwater, and how easy it is for a diver to use something like that. And as let's see, yeah, I'm sorry, as that technology improves and the waterproof technology improves, hopefully we can incorporate that in. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And as I said, you're more than welcome to come see me afterwards to see a more live demo of this. The website I have here is the information on NCRMP itself, the National Coral Reef Monitoring Program. And just want to open this to questions now.
Thanks, Ken. I'm glad to see you guys utilizing Collector, or starting to think about utilizing it in June. Is that right?
We hope to do that in June, yeah.
Nice. Any questions from the group here?
Yes, Chris.
Really cool. So I just have one question, which is, when you have the app working in the field, supposedly, will the boats be able to see where the other divers are going to be from the other boats?
Well, that's something that we're considering also is how simple we want to actually make the display itself. So do we want the boats to be able to see like where the other boats are, or do we just want to have them focus on their points themselves? We've toyed with that. We'll have to talk to the divers themselves to see really what they want to see on that to make a final decision on that. But that's a good question. It's uncertain right now, and that will be part of the feedback procedure.
Dominique?
Yeah.
When you set up the domains, did you do that in desktop, or did you use one of the forms available in ArcGIS Online?
This was done in desktop itself, so create those and then publish that feature service to ArcGIS.com. So we're using the NOAA Geo platform, which is the NOAA branded version of ArcGIS.com. So this is running a feature service that's located on that.
Any other questions? Here we go.
Yeah, this is kind of like, it's so good, we want more. How do you think this, as far, I'm not very familiar with the coral reef monitoring globally, but I understand this is one of the major parts of those programs. So will this be scalable to other countries and programs, and what happens at the other end? When you've got all the data, do you have a kind of a pipeline to publish it through the Ocean Biogeographic Information System or one of these other portals?
About it. Excuse me.
Thanks.
We hadn't really, excuse me, considered that much, sort of sorry. Haven't thought that much farther down the line about what we want to do. We would like to expand this to other parts of NCOS. We have other monitoring programs that we're using. So we hope to advance it out to those, but we're always happy to work with other people and sort of use our
or tell how we've used it and our experience and how it's been.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks again, Ken.
All right, thanks for putting up for my rocky voice.